Holy Gospel according to St. John, the second chapter.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus was in Cana in Galilee with Mary and his disciples, and they were at a wedding, the wedding feast going on when the wine ran out. One of the servants came to Mary and told her that the wine is gone. What will we do? She took the servant over Jesus and explained to him that they've run out of wine. Jesus, looking at his mother, saying, "What concern is this of mine? My hour is not yet come." But Mary turned to the servant and said, "Do whatever he tells you to do." So Jesus looked over and saw 6 stone jars, held 20 or 30 gallons each. They were used to hold the water for ritual purification. So Jesus told the servants, "Fill them up with water." And when they had done so, he said, "Now, take a cup out of there and present that to the chief steward." So they dipped in there and they walked over to the chief steward and presented him that. And as they did so, they noticed that the water had become wine. And the steward, when he tasted it, called over to the bridegroom and said, "Almost everybody else serves the good wine first, and then when everybody is drunk, they serve them the cheap wine. You have saved the best for last." This was the first of many miracles that Jesus would do in the presence of his disciples so that they may believe. The gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
It's an interesting first miracle. It begins with kind of reluctance on Jesus' part. John kind of leaves out a little of the detail between the exchange between mom and son here. I mean, I can imagine Jesus going, "You want me to fix a problem about not enough wine because somebody didn't count how many are on the guest list? I mean, I'm the Christ, the Messiah, the Son of the living God. I'm supposed to be here to save you guys from sin, not take care of head count problems." But of course, mom, it's like, these people need your help. Do something. A little edited out of the gospel there, I think. But what is the point of this miracle? And what are we supposed to get from this? I came across an artist, Paolo Venezia. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, but I don't think he'll be too upset. He was a 16th century painter from the Venetian school, and his most famous work, if you would please, is a painting of the wedding at Cana in Galilee. And of course, being a Venetian artist, you can find his painting in Paris. Napoleon really liked it, so he took it. It would actually fit in here barely, kind of. It's 22 feet by 32 feet, so it's a big one. And it was a style of its time that if you look closely, in the center, you'll see seated at the table Jesus, and to his right, his mother Mary, and disciples scattered throughout there, but also, common everyday people of his time. So people, in biblical garb, and then 1500s kind of guys. The guy on the right here up front in the white and kind of gold outfit, it was Charles V, the Holy Roman Emperor. You can boo and hiss because he was the guy who presided at Luther's trial of the Diet of Worms. Found him guilty. So, boo, hiss, bad guy. And then there's a character we're going to get into, but he's over there in the back, behind the guy in the green. He's kind of, his head's leaning in. He's another contemporary of Paolo. He was the Francis I, who was king of France at the time. And if we go to our next one, slide please, thank you. This is a close-up on the musicians in the front, and the guy in the red playing I'm guessing a cello, but I could be It's a big, stringy, instrumenty thing, so. He's actually one of the out of the Venetian school. That's the great Titian. And the other musicians were also Venetian artists. And the guy in white there I'm going with a fiddle. That's Paolo himself. The guy invented the selfie. Painted himself in there. You get a better scene of Jesus and Mary there too. And if we go to our next slide, it's now a close-up of the side of the table. And like I said, the guy on the right-hand side behind the guy with the green, just his head sitting in there. That's Francis, King of France. Kind of convenient to be named that way. But the guy in the gold, kind of in the top, on the opposite side there, he looks Middle Eastern, looks like he doesn't belong in the 1500s. Well, he actually is Middle Eastern, and he does belong in the 1500s. It's Suleiman. Suleiman, who was leader of the Turks, the Ottoman Turks. And it's an odd thing that you would have him painted in there. But this is where Paolo gets inspiration from what's going on in the gospel. You see, Francis and Suleiman have come to a peace agreement in real life. The Turks and the Holy Roman Empire were at war with each other. And the two realized that they need to put an end to the violence and the hatred and the fighting and the death. And they've come to a peace accord. So Paolo paints them in at the feast, at the table where people are joined together. If you remember the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding, a comedy in which a young lady whose family is ethnic Greek and living in America, and keeping their heritage alive, and she's fallen in love with this fellow who, well, he's not Greek. I mean, he's about as white bread crust trimmed off, as boring, plain American as you can get. And so, young lady's father, Costa, is all worried what's going to happen because they just don't fit in with us. And so the whole movie is all this battle between the cultures. And Dad's all upset and doesn't want the wedding to go forward. But finally, seeing the love, agrees to go forward with the wedding. And at the wedding banquet, he stands up to make a speech. And he points out that the surnames of both families in Greek are rooted in each is a fruit. And he said, we are different fruits, but we're fruits together. So we can come together. Suleiman and Francis, very different, and yet could come together. Jesus' presence at the wedding in Cana in Galilee is about bringing people together. Weddings do that, bringing different families together, people who normally aren't together. But Jesus comes into this world and brings a vast array of people together as children of God. We are called as his children through the waters of baptism. Despite our differences, how we may look, how may we act and sound, the cultural backgrounds we come from, we are all one in Christ. Amen.